Why don't we welcome on stage now Rajendra Shende, founder, director of the not-for-profit Green Tear Foundation. We've been chatting as we could today, there's so much to say about the path that you have taken to be, founding this Green Tear Foundation. Just a recap, you were the coordinating lead author of the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC. You won the Nobel Peace Prize with that group, and hence you own kind of a Nobel Peace Prize citation. You describe the Green Tear Foundation as an action forum. You say that it's about, to think is good, but to act is even better. I really like that. It's one thing that I pulled out from your bio. You're tapping into the minds of youth communities, equipping them with the skills to transform the ecosystem and helping them essentially to building blocks is key. Youth is at the heart of what you do. Youth, young people, students. Why is the emphasis on youth so important in the work that you're doing, Rajendra?
Thank you, Rochelle. It's nice to be getting interviewed by you, and particularly with Eric Labai listening to it. So I'm inspired. The first question itself is quite more inspiring. Because at present, let's look at the situation that we heard throughout the day. We are really standing on a cliff. And we are watching that there are two bombs that are ticking. The first bomb is about climate change. And the second bomb is about demographic situation. There are about 1.5 billion youth between age of 18 and 24. Yes, the population is getting aged more and more. Every country is facing the problem of aging. But at the same time, we have the more and more youth coming forward with out-of-box, innovative and creative ideas, and telling the older generation that probably you're looking at in a very set ways of finding the solutions, but we have another way of doing it. And that potential of creation, co-creation, that potential of innovation, and that potential of bringing to the table some of the solutions which can be utilized in an urgent way is what youth is defined with. And it's also important to say that youth in the universities particularly, their minds are getting molded. Their behavioral pattern can be streamlined. They can be trained and skilled to face the today's challenges by way of actually doing it and learning by doing it. And that kind of a skill exercise that the youth can do, particularly in universities between age 18 and 24, is going to be extremely useful for us. And that's why youth is at the center.
I mean, you use the word innovation and this idea that you need to think outside of the box because using the same ideas is not necessarily going to give new results. Sustainable solutions are at the forefront of what the Tear Foundation does. Thinking outside the box for your foundation looks at clean energy, at water security, at waste minimization. I ask you here, and the same question to you, give us a clear, concrete project and how it's working for you.
Yeah, thinking out of box, there are a huge number of examples. I'm amazed. I don't belong to that age group of 18 and 24. But when I look at their ideas, I feel that, yes, the climate change solution is there. Some time back, there was a report on how much emission takes place by mowing your lawn. Okay, because lawn mowers use the electricity or fossil fuel to run it. Some, of course, use their muscles to push it. But most of the time, if the lawn is bigger, you use the electricity. So there are a lot of emissions that take place from there. So for making the lawn green, we probably emit a lot of carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases. Sort of a greenwashing as well, which we have been hearing since morning. So the university in Australia, as well as one university in India, by looking at the probably Australian example, and a university in California, they found a nature solutions, which is totally out of box. And that is, get the herd of sheep and make them sit down in the lawn by fencing them so that they can start eating the lawn. And amazing, the sheep eat the lawn, not as a greedy one at one place. They eat it very uniformly. They also, their excreta is used as a fertilizer. So imagine what nature gives us. Nature tells us a systematic way of doing it without any emissions. So this is the way they found it. There is another one, quick one, is the university, is the MIT ADT, not the MIT USA. And I want to know what MIT in a campus does it. I know they publish a lot of papers and research. But this is a MIT ADT is in India. Then they have the green campus. But we look at only the green part of it. But whatever the residue comes, whatever the leaves fall down, and whatever the residue is coming down, they collect it along with the canteen waste. There are about 8,000 students in that university. And they churn it onto the fertilizer. And they sell it. Because that fertilizer is so much that they can't use it in their campus. They have to sell it. And it is becoming very popular. So at one point of time, they have to increase the price of it so as to get more benefit out of it. And they use that money for the tree plantation, not in the campus, because there is no place in a campus now, but as a social forestry outside. Okay, so there are a number of examples of out of box. And particularly those universities coming from villages, they have these nature solutions. In urban area universities, we have forgotten those nature solutions.
So sometimes we need to look for the simpler, innovative solution or that's out of the box. Right. I want to think a little bit about carbon neutrality, which of course is an aim for many countries by 2050. It means striking a balance between emitting carbon and also absorbing carbon from the atmosphere. How has Green Tear, how has the foundation been kind of looking at finding that very fine balance?
I don't think that is a challenge. I think learning by doing, using a springboard rather than a blackboard, and trying to incubate the talents, that itself provides a balance. And I don't think the person like me need to teach them how to get the balance. One of the things that they can do very easily is the energy efficiency in a campus. Our project is called as Smart Campus Cloud Network. The smart means it uses digital technology. Campus is a campus. Cloud is a tool for sharing the information. Now what happens is the students start incubating their ideas for implementing in a campus. So the campus becomes a living laboratory. So you don't have to have a physics laboratory or chemistry laboratory or any, what is called as atmospheric measurements, but the whole campus becomes a laboratory on which you can do the experimentation of it. So start with energy efficiency, see your emissions going down. I mean, you said in the just now in the beginning that to think is good, but the act is better. But performing and measuring the impact is the best. And they can see the importance of energy efficiency by emission reduction themselves, by the sensors, and by digitalization. Next step is to go for the renewable energy. And renewable energy can give you further reduction in the campus of the emissions. And then whatever you cannot do that further, you want to make it to the neutral, you go for the offsetting. So there are two ways: insetting through the energy efficiency and renewable energy, offsetting by planting trees either in a campus or outside a campus. So it is not a rocket science, it's not a challenge, it's doing it yourself. I think the United Nations Secretary General, I come from the United Nations DNA, so he recently said climate change may be a challenging problem, but more severe challenge is our feeling that somebody else is going to solve it. That is more serious problem. And this particular campus network of schools takes out that particular challenge totally, because you yourself are doing it in a campus. Somebody else is not going to do it for you.
I want to tap into your experience, Rajendra, at the UN, if I may, for a second. I know that you worked there for a while, specifically with the IPCC. What do you make of some of the milestones that have been set? So we spoke there about carbon neutrality by 2050. Are these milestones that, in your opinion, can be reached? Should we be stubbornly hopeful, as we heard said earlier, cautiously optimistic about, moving forward with this fight against climate change?
Rochelle, at present, the way the world, the speed is going, I don't think it is a possible way. See, we have a target of 1.5 degrees centigrade.
Indeed.
That is a challenging target. 2 degrees centigrade is probably slightly relaxed target. But in the morning, Eric told that the measurement in this campus is already saying we reached 1.5 degrees centigrade. So how can I say that it is possible? I don't want to have false optimism. I am definitely a dangerous optimist, but I will not, at this speed, the way the world is going, is not possible. And I feel climate change is a pandemic waiting to happen, or probably already started it, and there is no vaccine for that. And the only vaccine is, if at all I may symbolize it, is the youth in university. They are the one who are going to make change. I mean, most of the people here, let's say 8 years after, only the students will be in their prime age. The others will be probably retiring and having a retirement benefit, depending on the age which Emmanuel Macron will decide. But let's say 2050, I think we will be all above 80 or 90. But the youth is the vaccine for the climate change pandemic. Okay, so I'm optimistic for that.
Very, very good analogy there about youth being the vaccine. If we come back to the TEAR Foundation, let's think a little bit about human habits. They're often deeply embedded society. We've been asking today, how do we make change? How do we look to evolve? And I want to get a sense from you, how do we get the younger generation who is perhaps not on board to want to adopt a more sustainable lifestyle?
Yeah, there is one initiative which was launched by United Nations Secretary General, along with Prime Minister of India, my country, is called as a LIFE. It's a lifestyle for environment. And I think only probably the youth will be able to get that, because the adults are already used to some other lifestyle. And the youth can have the lifestyle which is nature-friendly, which could be harmonizing with the nature. And it could also help in reducing the emissions. How that can be done? It can be done with a combination of incentives to be given to the youth. It cannot come. You cannot say that youth is somebody who will learn it fast.
What kind of incentives are you thinking
of?
That's
right. That's right. So I'm coming to it. I'm proposing a totally different idea, and just an example of it. It is probably out of box. That the student gets up in the morning and then travels to the school, and in the school he eats, then probably in a canteen, then takes probably a round, sits in a class, and then goes back home. Let's say these are the top typical things. Now, at every stage, if there are sensors put, it's not impossible to do. It's already being done. You measure the student's carbon emission. Okay? And that carbon emission can be disclosed to the president of the school or the provost or any other person. And the better the figure is, that student gets a good credit. So suppose I travel by the public transport. the public transport should say, based on you use the sensor to use the public transport. So the information is just available. You don't have to fake, you don't have to greenwash saying that, no, today I came by public transport. It is on the record by the sensors. And then how much you travel is also on the record. It's not impossible to do it. And those kind of things probably will change the lifestyle. So I'm proposing a digitalization that today's smartphones, the coding and algorithms can be used to change the lifestyle. And then the incentives and the regulations of the universities can give him a credit or can give him any other incentive. Maybe 50% less canteen food because your today's carbon emissions was better. And the Chinese students are working on that. Today, the Beijing University and Tsinghua University are trying to find such kind of a digitalization of individual carbon footprint.
Do you think that could raise issues for privacy?
Say it again?
Could that raise issues for privacy if we're tracking? Oh.
It will. But look, take the pandemic we have just passed. Did we think about privacy issue there? We didn't.
Not a great deal. No.
I think everybody was exchanging the views. You're telling that I have a COVID-19. And somebody will say, why I should declare I have COVID-19? Why I should say that I need help? Because this is my private issue. We didn't do that. And that's why I say, in a climate change is the crisis where the issue of privacy in such cases probably take the second priority and probably should not be used as a right for doing something.
Rajendra, I just want to get a final question from you about the priority of green tear going from here. What would you say? It's a difficult question because I would imagine you have many things on the agenda, but the major, if you will, priority for green tear.
The priority is make it as a worldwide movement. And I was talking to Provost and the President of IP of Paris. Make it a global movement that all the university youth come in that. Just like a vaccine program was a movement, we have the youth in university as a movement. So for example, in India, many universities, today there are 500 universities in a network, which probably have maybe a few tens of thousands youth already working on it. And they're proceeding with reducing their carbon footprint. But let's say IP of Paris becomes a hub in France for the universities in France. The Peru already has one hub in their Catholic university to have all the Peru universities into it. So similarly, we are going to have it in UAE. The universities, they become a hub. And then they spread this kind of an learning by doing and what you call it, monitoring by sharing and speeding up by digitalization. And if we do those kind of things, probably we will succeed in that. So you ask the question, what is the future plan? Make it as a global movement. And just do it. And no more interviews, and no more roundtables.
Just get on with it, really.
Yes.
Rajendra, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
sharing the work.
Thank you very much.